Hello, BookTube. The packages that I get in the mail, they come at the front door, of course, and the mailmen, the FedEx, UPS, the U.S. Mail truck, they all know that I'm here all the time, so they don't really bother wrestling stuff through the mail slot unless it's somebody new. They'll usually just leave stuff on the porch. It's a nice big porch, and I'm out there all the time. They know that it's not just going to sit there for 10 hours, which is their biggest nightmare. These people are all very conscientious, very hardworking people, and their biggest nightmare is that they will leave something on a porch in full view of God, Mother, and country, and that it will be there too long, so that people will see it. Somebody might be tempted to just walk off with it or whatever. And they know that's not a problem with me. So the packages that I bring in every day are bearing stories of the outside world. I mentioned just yesterday that packages that I brought in from the outside, from the porch, were soaking wet because we were having intermittent, very strong downpours. Same thing is true in the winter. The packages come in cold to the touch, very cold to the touch, sometimes snowy. And today, the packages came in steaming hot because it is in Boston today. It is very, very hot and very, very humid and very, very bright, just blaring light everywhere. I used to hate such weather. I used to complain about it constantly to everyone, and I don't anymore. Something broke. Something broke inside Steve. I don't complain about it anymore. I love it. But these packages that I have here for the mail came in warm to the touch. They've mostly cooled off now. This little book room that I have is wonderful. I have a curtain drawn over the one window. I have a tall plant that's 6-7 feet tall that sits in front of the curtain, so the heat doesn't have a chance to enter this room, and that makes it nice and level, which is very nice. And also, there's a little AC unit in the window, should I need it. And I don't ever need it. I don't actually like the way it makes me feel anymore. Puts a raw edge to the air. The only time I ever run it is when little Frida Bean is, if she's really hot, then I'll run it just to cool the air off. But anyway, just to say that the packages came in hot, so we'll probably go through them together. And this first one is by Colin Jones. It's a tiny little thing. It's due in November. It's a little potted biography of Versailles. Tiny little thing. Not particularly reviewable, unless you really love, unless the New York Review of Books or the New Yorker or whatever dangles this book in front of some pedantosaurus who already has 50,000 words that he wants to write about Versailles anyway. He might hinge it to a book like this, but something like this that's basically the Wikipedia entry with pictures is probably not. I'll read it, but it's probably not anything I'll be able to figure out a way to review. So it's a low-key start. Let's see what we can do with the next one. Ooh. Okay. All right. There are more and more books like this every day. This also comes out in November. This is by Eileen Rivers, and it is 3 women on the front lines in Afghanistan. It's called Beyond the Call. Women in Afghanistan. See, the backdrop, these 2 eternal wars, these 2 wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, are now the backdrop for an industry of books on their own, fiction and nonfiction. And some of the books are extremely well done, extremely powerful. The type, like Going After Cacciato, they're the type of thing where, as odd as it is to say, you're glad you read the book. The book is amazing. It's a thing that some people do. They commemorate their experiences, even horrible experiences, in beautiful prose. I can still say, in the larger sense, I wish the books didn't exist. I remember vividly the horror that I felt watching the news, watching the live news feed of President George W. Bush standing in the United States Senate and declaring war on an idea. He declared war on terror. He localized it in 2 places. 2 major wars launched at the same time in 2 different theaters. But he didn't. The wars that he declared there in front of the United States Senate were not wars on those places. They were wars on an idea: terrorism, terror, the war on terror. And when he said that, I remember watching and thinking, well, the war on terror isn't ever going to end. It'd be like a war on drugs. The war on drugs was announced, and it's a losing battle, and it can't be won. and drugs, at least, are tangible. Terror is not. So what are you saying to America? You, President Bush, what are you saying? You have declared that we as a country are going to be on wartime footing forever? From now on? Until there's no terror in the world, which is never going to happen? And the only reason that he was able to do it is because the United States military complex and the United States governing class has figured out a way, through financial incentives and targeted recruitments and smart technology, they have figured out a way for the United States to be engaged in massive eternal warfare without the United States populace feeling the pinch. There are cities, there are families that are shattered, they lose their loved ones, but the loved ones volunteer. They aren't drafted. And, of course, as we mentioned on this channel a few times, there's also a raging epidemic of opioid abuse in America, and a large chunk of that is veterans. And that also is a tragedy. It takes an enormous toll. But all of it is different from draft cards. All of it is different from the son of a media executive who's making 8 figures being drafted to go to Afghanistan and go to the front lines. Somewhere along the line, someone realized in the wake of the Vietnam War that if you could have a war in the United States without that, there would be no reason for it to end. The people would ignore it or would embrace it. And as a result, we're getting an endless stream of books from this endless war. And this is the latest one. I don't know anything about it. Let me see. Hold it up here. That is the cover. Women have served in many capacities in almost every U.S. war since the Revolutionary War. May 2017 marked the graduation of the first women in history from the U.S. infantry basic training. But it has been just recently, in Iraq and Afghanistan, that women have fought shoulder to shoulder with men in combat. Beginning in 2003 with the Team Lioness program, the role of women in combat continued to expand with the formation of the female engagement teams. In Iraq and Afghanistan, the women of female engagement teams proved invaluable on the front lines, doing everything the male soldiers did, and much more. And the author is a USA Today editor, editorial board member. She's formerly with the Washington Post, and she's been writing and reporting for more than 15 years. She's a veteran of the U.S. Army. She served in Kuwait following Desert Storm, where she was sent into the former combat zone as an Arabic linguist, collecting and translating information from enemy targets. Good Lord. Okay. All right, so this comes out in November. Beyond the Call. Women in Iraq and Afghanistan. Okay. All right, let's move on here. So we started off with a very short potted history of Versailles, and we move on to a book that got me going on the eternal war on terror that the United States is engaged in and can't in any way afford. The money is going to Iraq and Afghanistan and down a gigantic black hole funnel that is desperately needed elsewhere in the relief of social safety net programs, in the building of infrastructure, in the shoring up of let's see. Okay. Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay. Wonderful. This is by Raymond Ibrahim. This is Sword and Scimitar. 14 Centuries of War Between Islam and the West. This is a military history of Islam and the West, narrated around their 8 most decisive clashes, first and last of which occurred more than a millennium apart. Structured around these 8 battles, the narrative chronologically traces the general but much forgotten backstory, encompassing all the attendant death, destruction, slavery, geopolitical demarcations, and map rearrangements. Good Lord. Okay, so the author chronicles the eruption of jihad in 636 through the Muslim occupation of 3/4 of Christendom, which prompted the Crusades, followed by renewed jihadi conquests by Turks and Tatars, to the European colonization of the Muslim world in the 1800s, where Islam largely went in on the retreat, until its reemergence in Western times. Okay. And I'm going to take a peek at the table of contents here to see just what that reemergence is going to look like. The last chapter in the book is the Siege of Vienna, 1683. Okay, so I don't... that's not terrifically recent, is it? Well, I have a feeling that the book will probably do more than that. It will probably come much more recently than that. I'm glad to have it though, because I'm I'm reviewing it, and that means that this has to go on the reading list right away. This bumps all the Friday reading. This bumps everything. I'll read this today. All right, and then this next one here. We're working our way towards the end. What is this next one? Huh. Okay, this is from Steerforth Press. Comes out in December. Didn't request it, but it does look kind of interesting. What have we got here? This is Ike's Mystery Man, The Secret Lives of Robert Cutler by Peter Schinkel. Why does Robert Cutler get many lives? Why does he get more than one? President Dwight Eisenhower signed Executive Order 10450, in effect banning gay people from working for the federal government. I think I know where our secret lives are going to come in here. The ban led to firings, resignations, even suicides. But some gay people nonetheless managed to hide their sexual orientation and work for the Eisenhower administration. One of these was Robert Cutler, a retired general who was the president's secretive right-hand man and the nation's first national security advisor. Journalist Peter Schinkel shares this never-before-told story in his new book. A result of more than 10 years of research, the book also draws upon Cutler's diary, a 6-volume, 725-page love letter to a young male National Security Council staffer whom Cutler hired and then became obsessed with. Oh, sounds like a fantastic story. Schinkel's research reveals that Cutler was one of Eisenhower's most influential and trusted advisors. He was a press-shy mystery man who carved a unique path as a writer, lawyer, bank president, and lifelong Republican. Cutler reached across the aisle to work with Democrats with remarkable effectiveness throughout his career. So the whole time he's hiding a secret. I wonder how much he hid it. I wonder if this is one of those things where everyone in Washington knew. More than a biography of a closeted gay man in public life, the book is a reassessment of the Cold War inner workings of the Eisenhower White House. Fantastic. And Ike's closeness to and dependence on Cutler. The book provides a detailed personal account of the feelings of a high-ranking official who was deeply involved with nuclear war strategy during the Cold War, as well as never-before-published materials about the CIA-led coup in Iran in 1953, and Cutler's attempt to change U.S. nuclear strategy in 1958. Wow. Okay. All right. So this is it's not anything I requested, but I'm on board. I'm absolutely fascinated. I wonder what the story of this is going to be. So this is coming out as a $30 hardcover in early December. From Steerforth Press. I wonder what kind of distribution this will get. Boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy. It shows you a change in the times, right? Robert Cutler could not possibly keep such a thing hidden in the 21st century. Not in politics. You might be able to do it in Hollywood. There are, as is informally known, there's the big three. There are three male Hollywood stars who are gay, and the public doesn't know. There has been no expose on them, and you may be able to do that in Hollywood, but you could never do it in politics. Imagine, look at the cable news piranha fest that you have 24 hours a day in America. Imagine having a high-ranking official, a cabinet member, who was hiding a huge secret. Wouldn't be that you're gay anymore. I don't think the public would really care all that much. But it could be something else. It could be something equally big, something correspondingly big for the 21st century. I don't think that it would last very long. I don't think it would be very possible. Then we have this last one, and then we'll be done. So I don't think I'm going to get any more mail today. What is this next? Oh. This is something we've seen already, or you will see it. This was in another video that I made. I made a Friday Reads video for today, and this was in it. And now I've got a second copy. This is by Matthias Bostrom. This is From Holmes to Sherlock. His fantastic, the paperback edition of his fantastic story of the Sherlock Holmes industry. From stage play to screen to television to you name it, to the internet. Just how massively creative people, directors and pastiche writers of all kinds, have adapted Holmes and Watson to the visual medium, to mediums other than the one that Arthur Conan Doyle wrote in. And I am, of course, an enormous Sherlock Holmes fan, and so when I knew that this book was coming out, I was all for it. I wanted to read it. And then I got to review it for the Christian Science Monitor and loved it. And I can't recommend it strongly enough to anybody. If you're a fan of Sherlock Holmes, or if you're a fan of the media interpretations of Sherlock Holmes, we all have our favorites, then you have to read this book. It's the ultimate history of the subject. And as I mentioned in my Friday Reads video, an added benefit for this paperback is that it has a named blurb from yours truly, right next to Nicholas Meyer from the University of Iowa, the great director Nicholas Meyer. Fantastic. All right, so there you go. So we have From Holmes to Sherlock in paperback. This will be in your bookstores in August, and it'll be in paperback. It's $18, which is at least more affordable than the $30 hardcover, and it's well worth your time. It is not a dry dissertation. It's fantastically written. Then Ike's Mystery Man, about a closeted gay man working in the highest ranks of an anti-gay government. A story that I have never read before. I'm sure that I've come across Robert Cutler's name in Eisenhower biographies and histories of the Eisenhower era. I'm sure that I have. But I doubt that I've made anything one way or another. In fact, I should go back and look at some of those Eisenhower books from recent years and see what those authors make, what they say about Cutler, even in passing. Do they mention that he was a closeted gay man? I honestly think a detail like that would probably have registered with me, but maybe not. Eisenhower books tend to be very long. I might have just gone right by me. Then Sword and Scimitar, about a millennia of combat between the Islamic world and the Christian world, which I will be reading right away, annotating up a storm, and then writing about. Then Beyond the Call, Women on the Front Lines in Iraq and Afghanistan, and Versailles, a very short introduction to the storied city. So that is our steaming hot mail haul for today. And I don't think there'll be any others, so I think I'll probably just wrap this up. I've got a huge amount of writing to do, but I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll have more fun then. So until then, I'll see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.